and welcome to the first video edition of Gaming for official use only. In this series, I examine the shadowy world of conspiracy theories in gaming, along with real-world theories that are similar. Unlike my other two series, I'm going to start this one off with a video that isn't derived from an article. Now, I tend towards skepticism because it's the only logical and rational way to look at these things, so get ready. I'm about to get controversial. It's time to take on the bizarre world of anti-vax. Let's look at the gaming conspiracy first. One of the single greatest games of all time is the original Deus Ex. This game seamlessly blended FPS action, stealth, and RPG character growth to produce one of the most original games ever made. It had a fantastic storyline that weaved together the insane world of conspiracy theories into a cohesive whole and set a precedent for years to come. Also had one of the best plots about a medical conspiracy that's ever been written. In the near future of the games, which is honestly about now in real life, there's a horrifying plague affecting humanity called the Grey Death. This plague starts out with flu-like symptoms. Eventually the victim turns white or gray, hence the name. As the disease continues, they become extremely weak to the point that simply speaking is painful. This disease literally eats them away from the inside out and then they perish. The only vaccine available is called ambrosia. This temporarily cures the patient and renders them immune for a few days, so they have to keep taking medicine. Of course, that's not how vaccines work. But anyway, this drug is monopolized by its inventor VersaLife, a company owned by billionaire Bob Page. There's where the problem. VersaLife was able to successfully create the drug because they created the plague. Page helped develop the Grey Death while acting as a member of the infamous Illuminati. Don't worry, that's another episode. By discovering that infected people who are not able to be nano-augmented with the nanites, they can in fact kill them. Page suggested using this knowledge as a weapon to the rest of the Illuminati, who all refused. Page got mad, left, and formed his own group called Majestic 12, and yes, that also is another episode. I told you this game was eyeballs deep in conspiracy lore. Armed with Grey Death, Page uses his numerous corporate holdings to unleash the plague while keeping the drug for himself. And of course, he infects key politicians and helps advance his plans. Ambrosia is kept as a monopoly for him, allowing him large amounts of power while keeping the poor screwed. Also hinted Page is doing this to force the adoption of nano-augmentation sooner, but that doesn't seem right since it kills people. Not only that, if scientists can figure out to allow people who aren't able to be nano-augmented to be augmented, they'd cure the plague. The entire plague is a dirty plan by its creator to both control the world and fill his pockets. Can't say Page doesn't plan ahead, though I forgot one thing. He pissed off the Illuminati. The in-game Illuminati is as powerful as conspiracy theory claims, yet are far more benevolent. They help the protagonist of Deus Ex stop the Grey Death and work to cure the infected. Trust me, we Illuminati know what we're doing. Now to reality. Get ready, kids. I'm about to get really unfriendly. In 1997, due to the urging of an an attorney, Andrew Wakefield, a British gastroenterologist, released a study he had done on one vaccine, the MMR vaccine. This is something given to children early to help prevent measles, mumps, and rubella, hence the name. Originally published in the respected journal of the LANCET, it was soon retracted as Wakefield's numerous procedural violations, financial compensation by biased parties, and outright lies came to light. Since then, Wakefield is ineligible to practice medicine in his home country, having been disbarred for being a fucking liar. Currently still makes millions by peddling his buffet of bullshit to the uneducated, the ignorant, and the denialists. Now, despite the fact that only one study out of thousands proved this theory, and said study only covered one vaccine, the new war cry is that vaccines were actually very dangerous and we've been lied to for profit or to control us. Now, somehow this multi-trillion-dollar global conspiracy has a glaring weakness of idiots on Facebook with the "I want to see your manager haircut" and utility belts full of essential oils that work about as well as Congress does. There are two main arguments, and I use this term loosely, that anti-vaxxers set out. I'm going to take down each one using actual facts, reason, and logic, aka what anti-vaxxers actually fear. Let's get going. The first argument is that vaccines contain dangerous chemicals, and they prove this by naming off scary-sounding chemicals that do indeed contain hazardous elements. There's a small problem. Combining elements can change their properties. Let's look at sodium and chlorine. Sodium is a very common element, and it's from the alkali metal family. These metals have the super fun habit of combusting when exposed to any water, including atmospheric humidity. Therefore, are usually found kept submerged in something like kerosene to keep them away from water and going boom. Now, chlorine is an incredibly poisonous gas, so it was used in one of the earliest chemical weapons, which giant clouds were dispersed during World War I to slaughter people. Now, if you take these two very dangerous elements and combine them, you get one of the most common substances known to anyone, and something that's required for human life. Table salt. Yes, some of the chemicals involved in vaccines contain words like mercury, which is hazardous by itself, but in these chemical configurations it's fine, as they are at worst harmless and most part useful for the vaccine. Hell, how many people eat bananas for their potassium without knowing that it's actually one of the most radioactive food elements we know of? In fact, eating one banana contains more radiation than someone who lives within a mile of a nuclear power plant absorbs in a full year. Radiation is a topic I'd like to cover later, but we have work ahead of us. I do encourage you to read the link banana equivalent dose Wikipedia page below for fun with the numbers of radiation. It really is interesting. Now, number 2 in the anti-vaxxers' greatest hits is the weight. There's some glaring problems with this report. I could ignore that out of thousands of other studies. We could ignore that out of the hundreds, if not thousands of other studies, there were no links to autism found whatsoever, but that wouldn't be enough. Science uses something called the scientific method to learn more about the universe. The idea is that you take a look at the evidence from before your studies, make an educated guess called a hypothesis, and then test this to see if you're correct. Now, making an educated guess and being wrong is not a bad thing. It happens. That's part of the process. However, what is bad is going to a study intending to prove something without any prior evidence, which is what a group of anti-vaxxers did recently. Funny thing is, after the study was completed, it also showed there was no link whatsoever between vaccines and autism. Oops. Now, even ignoring this, we have the glaring problem that literally one study links vaccines to autism. That's what those of us with a science background call a giant fucking fluke. Even if Wakeman hadn't lied, hadn't used improper techniques, and if there wasn't an obvious financial incentive for him to say so, the majority of science would ignore his claims. Why is that? Because there's a mountain of evidence that disagrees with him, and only his study stating his belief was proven. Now, this is a statistical anomaly, and science often ignores that because things happen because it's not a perfect world. Sometimes you read things wrong. A system may not be calibrated correctly and throws out numbers it shouldn't. Stuff like this. That's why good scientists don't treat a single answer that ignores established science as an immediate disapproval. It's rigorously tested and examined. While we have the peer review system, which other qualified scientists examine their findings, see if they can replicate them. If they can't, it was a fluke. It has nothing to do with reality. This all makes perfect sense. After all, if you are accused of crime that one witness said you committed, yet a dozen others corroborate your alibi, do you want the judge to listen to just the one witness over the mountain of evidence supporting your claims? Of course not. In the end, if you are truly an anti-vaxxer, then you can only be 3 kinds of people. You're either uninformed, which you shouldn't be as an adult in 2019, but that's a fixable problem, isn't that bad in the scheme of things. After all, you can be educated to correct the problem. Or you may just be a denialist, which again, an adult in 2019 with access to the sum of human knowledge has no reason to be so. Denial for the sake of your own argument makes you a lesser person. Finally, we have the third type, and arguably the worst. You're a liar. You are letting others suffer to make yourself feel superior. We have measles outbreaks, and that was eradicated nearly decades ago. We have people dying now because too many people want to throw out lies and act like they're the truth. This must stop. I don't think I need to say just how little esteem I hold anti-vaxxers in. I felt I had to do my part to expose the lies. Deus made it a straightforward case when talking about their conspiracy theory, but anti-vaxxers in reality don't work with anything resembling logic or reason. This is why when you see someone peddling anti-vaccine bullshit, they should be ignored as quickly as that idiot David Wolf's advice. After all, neither one has anything to do with modern medicine or science, or anything resembling the truth. And it's time we accepted that. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this inaugural entry. I'm looking forward to continuing the series, as I do have a fascination for conspiracy theories. And as I've always said in the articles, paraphrased a bit, thank you for watching, and until next time.